Now, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi indeed marks the end of an era for the Zulu kingdom, that is his passing. And the South African Council of Churches has extended its deepest condolences to the entire Buthelezi family who have lost their father and pillar of their family structure. We now bring in Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana of the South African Council of Churches. Bishop, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us. Just the role of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi as we pay homage and tribute to the fallen leader, your reaction on his passing. Bishop, if you may please unmute your microphone. And if you can hear me, the question was your reaction to his passing early hours this morning.
Sorry about that. Bengichi, as we say in Zulu, that this happened. Indeed, his coming home gave a kind of a glimmer of hope, and both to his family and the people in general. But I think that one of the greatest gifts that God has given him was the ability to be alive for the 95th birthday, that the family can celebrate him and honor him. And I think that will remain in their minds and hearts as forever a gift that can never be forgotten. We extend our deepest condolences.
I beg your pardon, Bishop. I was just going to say, if even the family leading up to his hospitalization had requested for privacy and also coming out to thank the South African society for their prayers, but really requesting that they are given time for him to heal and to undergo medical procedures. But through it all, there was a sense of hope that he would make a full recovery.
Indeed, indeed. And as I say, even the celebration of his birthday, and then coming home, all this suggested that we might just have him for a little longer than it turned out to be. I think that his departure at this time would also enable him, I believe, the joy of being united with the two women that were most precious in his life, his wife Irene and his mother, Princess Magogo, whom he pretty much worshipped.
Yes, and speaking earlier to, my colleagues were speaking to various political leaders, historians. A case in point was Professor Pitika Gantuli, who had spoken of Princess Magogo's role and how she had documented the rich history and culture of the Zulu nation through song, and that the Buthelezi family really are very much rooted in the origins of the Zulu culture and the preservation thereof as well.
Indeed, they are an archive. I mean, Prince Mangosuthu was a walking encyclopedia for the Zulu traditions, and in fact, it should be noted that without him, I don't know that King Zwelithini would have been in place as he has now, served for 50 years before his Ukota Magwake. And we also saw the role he played in the installation of King Misuzulu. So I think that AmaZulu have suffered a great loss in the departure of this prince, but I think he has served. He has served.
Just in your observation and interaction with him as well as the South African Council of Churches, and we understand the role of the church in all aspects and spheres of society, be it politically, socially, and economically, I guess. But your view in what you can attribute to his longevity, not only in life to be an elderly, very well-reputed leader, to even sustaining the fourth largest political party in South Africa.
One thing amazing about Prince Buthelezi was that he was a diabetic. And he was very careful about his diet and the way in which he carries himself about. And, he is living proof that you can live with diabetes successfully to a ripe old age. And of course, we did not have an SACC relationship with the prince, but rather his relationship was much more with the church of his family, and that is the Anglican Church. But there was no, exchange of opinions between him and the South African Council of Churches, as an organization. But he was a respected elder statesman in his later years, because he would be the one person that could stand up in Parliament and rebuke anyone and everyone. And I remember talking to him at one time, saying, Shenge, your life it would be that much more valuable in society if you retired from your political party and just be the country's elder statesman in politics. And he said, well, I was, when you don't know the challenges we have in the party. I said, well, whatever the challenges in your party, we need somebody older who is not in a political party. And of course, in the end, he retired, but he remained the president emeritus of his party. Of course, you could not separate Prince Buthelezi from eNCA Freedom Party, his beloved political home.
Yes, he heeded your call in 2019, stepping down as the IFP leader after 44 years of diligent and dedicated service. But he made it a point to also infuse intellectual leadership, young leadership within the IFP, creating that environment where they can thrive and also be a formidable voice in Parliament.
Indeed, but I wouldn't say he did my call, because he remained a party leader emeritus. So yes, he was there, but he chose to remain very much identified with the party, and I think that makes sense given the role and responsibility felt for the IFP as an organization.
Yes, and Bishop, I mean, not to get into the politics of things, but we can't avoid the fact that we are still reeling from the legacy of apartheid, albeit that great strides have been made just in the legacy of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, particularly when it comes to young people who do not have a hangover over, be it Codesa, apartheid for that matter, and where the country had transitioned from. What do you think his legacy in terms of young people looking at him as a role model and also an esteemed leader that we can learn from?
I would wish to leave that to the historians and commentators. My own observation as a church leader is that he was the dedicated member of a member church of the South African Council of Churches. I think that the issue of how his politics played out in the South African environment is something that would probably be better, engaged by analysts.
Yeah, no, and fair enough, Bishop. Just, I think for what we tend to do is in commemoration or remembrance of fallen heroes, that sometimes that is also lost in history, the value that they brought, the legacy and also influence that they have in shaping the South Africa that we desire or the democracy that we enjoy today. So what we can learn from his leadership is the fact that you don't always have to be the winner. Sometimes you need to compromise. There are certain concessions that you need to make for the greater good.
I think a mark of that was his readiness to participate in the government of national unity, which definitely represented that in the circumstances. But I think that politics aside, the great role he played in the installation and the protection of the Zulu monarchy, probably, in my view, stands out above all else.
And it's I think something that can be emulated. If you look at other cultural groups in society who probably envy the dominance and the prominence of the Zulu monarch in the, it speaks of the leadership in ensuring that there's preservation of not only its history and culture and origin, but also that there is continuity, intergenerational continuation of the monarch. Your view?
Well, I mean, I don't know how many, it may not be that many people know now that without Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, King Zwelithini would not have been king. Simple. And that's what he stood out for and made happen, ensured happens in 1971 December. And I remember when then he encouraged a major celebration that was to be at Jabulani Amphitheatre in 1972, where King Zwelithini came for the first time to Soweto. And Prince Buthelezi arranged for a committee to organize that, to make it a major success. That was led by Dr. Sipho Buthelezi, Nyembezi, and Gibson Tula. And that was a major success. And I have reason to believe that the idea of the formation of the IFP began with that event, because Dr. Nyembezi did tell us when we were doing our research for Black Review back in 1974, that they had, Buthelezi had asked them, they went to ask Prince Buthelezi what they should call this thing, because it cannot be abandoned now that they've built this momentum. And I will remember that at that time there was also another political party emerging in the South Coast led by Nkosi Uhlengwa waseMfume, that was called Mkondo Gashaka. And I think that then I think Buthelezi would then have found it necessary to build on the momentum of the Zulu King in Soweto to really establish eNCA Freedom Party, which would then supplant Mkondo Gashaka Nkosi Uhlengwa. Anyway, that's just my observation of the history.
And you're giving us quite rich nuggets as well, because if we reflect in history, as you're saying, had it not been for his influence and his visionary, observation of the environment politically and otherwise currently brewing at the time, was that there would possibly not be as formidable a Zulu monarch and a Zulu nation to speak of today, had it not been for his hand in it.
Yes, particularly the combination of the strengthening of the Zulu monarch on the one hand, and the incubation of that in the KwaZulu government, which gave the monarch a substantial budget to really establish themselves.
No, I really, really appreciate your time, Bishop. We know that you're attending another event, but before we let you go, just the message, I suppose, of not only hope and reconciliation. We are celebrating Heritage Month, and the focus throughout this month is usually on recognizing, number one, our authentic identity, who we are as Africans. Secondly, the preservation thereof. And thirdly, the intercultural exchange that then leads to social cohesion.
You talk about intercultural exchange. Just this past week, we met as leaders or interfaith leaders of various traditions: Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Nazareth, and some council of churches and other church bodies, Bantu Church of Christ, to reflect on exactly what should be the heritage of this country. Should it be a heritage of a collapse of state institutions? Should it be a heritage of the excluded majority with the 75% of young people without a hope? Should it be a heritage of a disunited and divided South Africa, which is the heritage of a legacy of apartheid? Or rather, should be a common nationhood with one identity that really begins to say, we can take responsibility. It's our nation, our responsibility, and make it count. That's what we're working for. And for that reason, we want September to be a preparation for a new image of our heritage, which will emerge from a convention we're calling from the 9th to the 11th of October in Johannesburg. And I think that's one way of saying we can have a different heritage.
Bishop, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you indeed for your time. He had to take time out of another event he's attending so he can too contribute and share homage to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who passed on in the early hours of this morning. And the South African Council of Churches has also extended their deepest condolences to the Buthelezi family and the eNCA Freedom Party. And the father and pillar of the family has fallen, but Bishop Mpumlwana also saying that his legacy will live on.